It's the world's favorite superfood. Healthy, organic, trendy, but perfection has a price. Deep in the mountains of Mexico, they don't call it a fruit. They call it Oro Verde, a multi-billion-dollar empire hijacked by the world's most dangerous cartels. Drones in the sky, landmines in the orchards, blood in the soil. From the minefields of Michoacán to the grocery stores of London, New York, and Berlin, the supply chain is soaked in blood. Is a healthy breakfast worth a human life? The investigation begins now. You start your morning with a healthy ritual. A slice of toasted sourdough, a perfectly ripe avocado spread across the top. It is the ultimate superfood. From the trendy cafes of East London to the high-rise penthouses of Manhattan, this green fruit is a status symbol. It represents health. It represents a conscious lifestyle. But there is a dark secret beneath that creamy texture, a secret that might just ruin your appetite. Today, we are witnessing a tragedy of epic proportions. Between 2024 and 2026, the world has seen the rise of blood avocados. The Mexican state of Michoacán is the epicenter of this nightmare. Here, the soil is no longer nourished by water. It is being soaked in human blood. This is not just a trade war. This is a battle for the soul of a nation. This is a war fueled by your breakfast. The turning point came in June 2024. A routine day turned into a global crisis. 2 American agricultural inspectors were on duty, surveying orchards intended for export to the United States. Suddenly, they were surrounded by gunmen. They were intercepted, kidnapped, and beaten. This was not a random act of street crime. This was a calculated strike. It was a direct message to the United States government. The cartels wanted to show who really owns the land. The response was immediate. The USDA suspended all avocado imports from Michoacán. The green gold stopped flowing, but the violence did not. In 2022, a similar threat had occurred over a phone call, but by 2024, the situation had evolved. The cartels were no longer hiding in the shadows. They were attacking foreign officials in broad daylight. They wanted to prove that the law does not exist here. For the average consumer in Europe or the US, this was just a headline, perhaps a slight increase in price at the local supermarket. But for the Mexican farmer, it was a death sentence. When the borders close, the prices drop, but the quota remains the same. The quota is the protection tax. The cartels demand a cut of every kilo. They do not care about international bans. They want their money. If a farmer cannot pay, he loses more than his land. He loses his life. He loses his family. Reuters has documented the sheer lawlessness in Michoacán. Groups like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel and La Familia Michoacana are in a death match. They fight for every single tree. They fight for every packaging plant. The Associated Press reported a terrifying escalation in 2025. The sound of birds in the orchards has been replaced by the hum of motors. These are not delivery drones. These are weaponized drones. The cartels have embraced modern warfare. They drop improvised explosives on farmers who refuse to pay. They target those who try to organize. This is the dark side of technology. A farmer who has worked the land for generations is now a target from the sky. He does not know if death will come from the road or the clouds. This is psychological terror. This is the reality of 2026. In the supermarkets of Paris and Berlin, the questions are getting louder. Are we unknowingly funding terrorism? This is a question every conscious consumer must face. In Michoacán, the government is a ghost. The police are either terrified or on the payroll. When the American inspectors were threatened, the world took notice. But what about the thousands of Mexican workers? Their voices are never heard. They are the modern-day slaves of the avocado trade. They work with a gun to their heads. Their wages are paid in the currency of fear. By the start of 2026, the situation reached a breaking point. Reports from the Mexican Ministry of Defense are chilling. They have discovered vast minefields, not in a traditional war zone, but around avocado orchards. These are landmines designed to kill. They are meant to keep rival gangs and the military away. Imagine a fruit grown in a minefield. Imagine a fruit harvested by people who might step on a bomb at any moment. This is the true cost of your healthy choice. The global demand is the oxygen for this fire. The more we crave this fruit, the more the cartels squeeze the land. It is a cycle of greed that seems impossible to break. The city of Uruapan used to be a hub of prosperity. Now, its streets are silent after dark. But the night is not empty. Heavy trucks rumble through the shadows. They carry more than just fruit. These trucks are the perfect cover for cocaine and synthetic drugs. The avocado trade is now the safest mask for global smuggling. The cartels know that the world needs its avocados. They use this necessity as a shield. They have hijacked the entire supply chain. From the planting to the shipping containers, everything is under their thumb. If a shipping company refuses to cooperate, their trucks are burned. Their managers are assassinated. This is a grip of iron. International human rights groups are sounding the alarm. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have been clear. This is blood on the plate. We saw it with blood diamonds in Africa. Now we are seeing it with blood avocados in North America. A diner in a luxury London restaurant rarely thinks about the source. They do not see the tears of the widows in Michoacán. They do not see the orphans left behind by this green gold rush. But the truth is there, written in the scars on the trees. It is written in the bullet holes in the packing crates. The year 2024 was a warning. 2026 is a catastrophe. The U.S. Embassy has issued level 4 inches travel warnings. This is the highest level, the same warning given for active war zones. Michoacán is a battlefield. Burned-out vehicles line the highways. Walls are riddled with high-caliber gunfire. The cartels have become bolder, posting videos of their power on social media. They show off their armored monstros trucks. They want the world to know they are invincible. They want the world to know they are above the law. The Mexican government's policy of hugs, not bullets, has failed. The criminals saw it as a green light. They saw it as a surrender. This crisis has a global ripple effect. It is not just about the fruit. It is about the people. When farmers lose everything, they flee. They head north and join the massive waves of migration toward the U.S. border. An avocado crisis becomes a border crisis. Every dollar earned by a cartel is a dollar spent on more weapons. It is a dollar spent on corrupting more officials. It is a dollar spent on destroying democracy. The wound in Michoacán is getting deeper every day. The soil is becoming barren, not just from lack of water, but from the lack of hope. The 2024 ban showed us a glimpse of the future. It showed us what happens when the trade stops. But is stopping the trade the answer? Or is the answer fixing the broken system? This current crisis is a wake-up call. It is a challenge to our ethics. We must ask ourselves the real price of our food. Can we ignore the blood on our hands? Can we look away while a country burns for a fruit? The air in Michoacán is thick with the smell of gunpowder and rotting fruit. The drones circling the sky look like vultures. They are waiting for the next victim. This is the era of 2024 to 2026. This is the time when the world must open its eyes. The green gold has turned red. The crisis is no longer confined to Mexico. It is a global moral failure. Your next bite of avocado tells a story. It is a story of a farmer who might not make it home tonight. It is a story of a child who has seen too much. It is a story of a land that is screaming for help. The present crisis is just the beginning. Behind it lies decades of greed and a long history of violence. We can no longer ignore it. Michoacán is weeping. Mexico is bleeding. And the world is still just counting the calories. Silence is the greatest crime. A simple fruit. The skin is rough and dark. The inside is velvety and green. It was once called the alligator pear. Today it is the most valuable fruit on the planet. How did a single fruit become a global sensation? The story begins in the closed rooms of marketing agencies. Until the 1990s, almost no one in America knew what it was. People considered it too high in fat. It was a niche product. Then came a magical word: superfood. Dietitians and influencers began to praise it. They called it a source of good fats. Suddenly, it became the star of every breakfast table. But this was not just about health. This was a masterclass in strategic marketing. An organization called Avocados from Mexico turned a fruit into a lifestyle. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising. They integrated this fruit into the very fabric of American culture. The Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event in the United States. Hundreds of millions of people watch it at once. It is the day of peak consumption in America. And the king of the table is guacamole. Look at the statistics. Every year during the Super Bowl, Americans consume nearly 100 million pounds of avocados. This is an incredible number. Thousands of trucks cross the border from Mexico. They travel day and night just to meet the demand of this one single day. A 30-second advertisement during the Super Bowl costs millions. Avocado ads turn the fruit into a symbol of fun and celebration. It set the demand on fire. Consumption in the U.S. has tripled in the last 2 decades. Today, the average American eats more than 9 pounds of avocados a year. But this hunger is no longer limited to America. The European market is exploding. From London to Berlin, demand is touching the sky. Europeans are now obsessed with Mexico's green gold. Global trade data shows a staggering trend. The avocado market is projected to exceed $20 billion by 2030. This is a massive sum for any agricultural product. Look at the price graphs. Whenever demand spikes, prices shoot up like a rocket. In a supermarket in New York or London, a single avocado sells for $2 to $5. The consumer believes they are paying for their health. They think they are making a conscious choice, but they do not see where that money is really going. This is the intersection where economics meets organized crime. When demand is this high and supply is concentrated, the mafia enters the room. Mexican cartels recognized this economic opportunity immediately. They realized that selling drugs carries a very high risk, but selling avocados is legal, and the profit margins are becoming as high as cocaine. They started calling it oro verde, green gold. The cartels set their sights on the regions with the best harvests. Michoacán is the crown jewel. Its climate and soil are a paradise for avocado trees. It is the only place in the world where trees bloom 4 times a year. This means year-round harvest. This means year-round profit. As global demand grew, the hunger of the cartels grew with it. They began to threaten the farmers. They seized control of the packaging plants. They stopped being just drug dealers. They became agro-entrepreneurs. The power of marketing is deep. We see a television commercial. It shows a happy Mexican family. They are picking fruit in a sun-drenched orchard. Beautiful music plays in the background, but this advertisement is a mask. It hides a brutal reality. The ad does not tell you that the farmer is living in absolute terror. It does not tell you how many bodies have fallen behind that fruit. There is a simple rule. In economics, high demand leads to high prices. And in Mexico, high prices lead to high blood. The obsession of the Western middle class has birthed a violent cycle. When you order a $15 avocado toast, you are indirectly fueling a machine. You are feeding a system of extortion. The force of the global market is immense. Mexico now produces more than 30% of the world's avocados. More than 80% of that goes to the United States alone. This is a massive trade imbalance. The American appetite is so large that Mexican agriculture has become its slave. Farmers have abandoned their traditional crops like corn and beans. They only want to grow avocados now because that is where the money is. But this money cannot buy them safety. As demand increased, the price of land vanished into the clouds. Now there is a war for the land itself. Cartels are burning down protected forests to plant illegal orchards. They are willing to destroy the environment to satisfy the global market. They will do anything for the green gold. The data is terrifying. Michoacán exports nearly 1 million tons of avocados every year. The value is in the billions. A significant portion of this wealth disappears into the taxes collected by cartels. They have placed a fee on every truck. They have put a stamp on every tree. If a farmer tries to hide his yield, the consequences are fatal. This is an organized structure that is almost impossible to dismantle, because the foundation of this structure is the consumer. Our demand is their strength. The growth in the European market is equally concerning. Consumers there believe they are practicing ethical shopping. But the supply chain is so tangled that the truth is buried deep. Investigative journalism has tried to expose this truth many times, but the noise of the marketing machine is too loud. The green color shown in the ads is a corporate illusion. In economic textbooks, this is called an externality. It is a cost that the consumer does not pay. It is a cost paid by society. In this case, society is paying with its life. The rising prices of avocados are used to buy new weapons for the cartels. They use these weapons against the very people who grow the fruit. It is a heartbreaking paradox. The health of a person in Los Angeles is built on the suffering of a person in Uruapan. During the Super Bowl, millions of people sit in front of their TVs. They dip their chips into bowls of guacamole. At that exact moment, guns are firing in a Mexican orchard. A family is fleeing their home in the middle of the night. These are two sides of the same coin. On one side, the shiny modern life of the West. On the other side, medieval barbarism. This demand has created a monster that no one can control. Global trade documents show how Mexico has gambled its entire ecosystem for this one fruit. It is a dangerous bet, and the house always wins. Technology and social media have accelerated this demand. There are millions of posts with the hashtag avocado on Instagram. It is a trend. It is a vibe. People consider it a part of their identity. But can a lifestyle be worth a human life? This is the defining question of our era. Economics is not just about numbers and charts. It is also about morality. And in the avocado trade, morality is completely absent. The market forces have turned a simple fruit into a curse. The Mexican economy is now so dependent on this trade that they cannot stop it. And the consumer's addiction is so strong that they will not quit it. This is the trap the world is caught in. Advertisements sell us dreams of health and vitality. But behind those dreams is a nightmare of greed. This explosion of demand is not just burning Mexico. It is a stain on our collective conscience. Every time the price goes up, we complain, but we do not see the pain behind that price. The avocado trade is no longer just farming. It is a geopolitical crisis. It is the new lifeline for the drug cartels. As long as the world stays crazy for this fruit, the land of Mexico will stay red. This demand is the engine that drives the slaughter. And for now, there are no signs that this engine is slowing down. The market is growing. The prices are rising. And along with them, the violence is spreading. It is a violence we cannot see from our dining tables. This is the dark reality of global demand. Every purchase has a consequence. In this trade, the consequence is lethal. The superfood has a super cost, and it is being paid in blood. Every single day, in every single orchard, under the shadow of the green gold. The year was 1994. The world was standing at the edge of a new era. A new economic dawn was breaking over North America. 3 nations gathered to sign a historic document. The United States, Canada, Mexico. They called it NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. On paper, it was a masterpiece of diplomacy. It was a promise of shared prosperity. It was supposed to erase borders for business. It was meant to lift millions out of poverty. But beneath the elegant signatures, a trap was being set. A trap that would change the destiny of Mexico forever. This was the beginning of a journey that turned a fruit into a weapon of war. To understand the blood in your salad today, we must go back. We must look at the roots of the 1990s. For nearly 80 years, the Mexican avocado was an outlaw. From 1914 to 1997, it was banned from entering the United States. The official reason was scientific. The U.S. claimed Mexican fruit carried the seed weevil. This tiny pest could have devastated California's groves. But science was only half the story. The other half was protectionism. The U.S. was shielding its own farmers from competition. It was a trade wall built on fear and biology. But in the early 90s, the political winds shifted. Mexico began a massive lobbying campaign in Washington. They spent millions of dollars on lawyers and consultants. They wanted that wall to come down. They saw the American market as a gold mine. And they were right. NAFTA was the sledgehammer that broke the wall. In 1997, the first crates of Mexican avocados crossed the border. It was a trickle that soon became a flood. For the farmers of Michoacán, it felt like winning the lottery. But NAFTA did not just open a market for fruit. It opened a high-speed highway for organized crime. Think about Mexico in the early 90s. This was the era when the great cartels were rising. The Sinaloa cartel, the Gulf cartel. They were watching the trade deals closely. They saw something the politicians ignored. They saw that a surge in legal trade is the perfect camouflage. Thousands of trucks began crossing the border every day. Customs officials were overwhelmed. Inspections became a game of chance. The cartels realized that hiding drugs under avocados was easy. The supply chain was their new playground. The economic shift was violent. Mexico's rural heartland was transformed overnight. Traditional crops like corn and beans were abandoned. Everyone wanted to plant green gold. The logic was simple. You earn pesos for corn. You earn dollars for avocados. But NAFTA's rules favored the giants. Massive corporations bought up thousands of hectares. They had the capital. They had the political connections. The small farmer was left behind. He was pushed to the margins of his own land. Then came the second blow. NAFTA allowed cheap, subsidized American corn to flood Mexico. It was so cheap that local farmers could not compete. Millions of rural workers lost their livelihoods. They were desperate. They were hungry. And the cartels were waiting for them. NAFTA unintentionally provided the cartels with a massive, angry army of laborers. The year 1994 was a year of chaos for Mexico. While the elites celebrated NAFTA, the South was in flames. The Zapatista uprising began on the very day the treaty started. Political assassinations were shaking the capital. The economy was on the brink of collapse. In this vacuum of power, the mafia grew strong. They looked at the avocado orchards and saw a tax base. They realized they didn't just have to sell drugs. They could tax the legitimate economy. This was the birth of the agro-mafia. These criminals traded their gold chains for business suits. They learned about logistics. They learned about international banking. They learned how to hide their dirty money in the shadows of global trade. The avocado became their most efficient laundry machine. The economic policies of the 90s created a new class of predators. These were men who understood that America was addicted to the lifestyle of the superfood. And they were the ones who controlled the source. The promises of NAFTA began to look hollow for the poor. Inequality widened like a canyon. In states like Michoacán, the fertile soil became a battlefield. The cartels began to buy local mayors. They bought the police chiefs. They used the foreign investment from NAFTA to fund their own expansion. Much of the wealth that flowed into the country never reached the people. It was siphoned off by corruption. The trade war had a hidden face. It wasn't just about tariffs or quotas. It was a war against the common citizen. Consumers in London or New York thought they were enjoying free trade. They were getting cheap fruit year-round. But Mexico was paying the hidden cost. NAFTA turned Mexico into America's kitchen garden. But it was a garden where the gardener held a machine gun. By the late 90s, the avocado trade was worth billions. The cartels were no longer just parasites. They were the landlords. They began to forge land titles. They forced families to sell their ancestral groves for pennies. If you refused, you disappeared. History proves a hard truth. When economic inequality grows, crime flourishes. NAFTA didn't just open borders. It widened a gap between the rich and the poor. Big exporters received tax breaks. They received government subsidies, but the small farmer only received debt. When a farmer couldn't pay his loans, the cartel moved in. They offered protection, but this protection was a trap. It was a one-way ticket to servitude. This is how avocado farming became a bloody legacy. The architects of 1994 assumed Mexico would become a modern democracy. They underestimated the power of the shadow economy. They built the infrastructure for trade, but they forgot to build the infrastructure for justice. The new highways were perfect for smuggling. The better ports were ideal for moving chemicals. The easy border transit was a gift to the traffickers. The cartels built their own packing plants. They started their own trucking companies. They used the legal framework of NAFTA to legitimize their empire. Today, when we look back, NAFTA looks like a tragic failure of foresight. Economically, it boosted the GDP. Socially, it turned a nation into a ruin. The relationship between the U.S. and Mexico has always been a mirror of hypocrisy. The U.S. needs Mexico's cheap labor. It needs Mexico's natural resources. But it fears the violence that comes with it. This is a double standard that NAFTA cemented. The result of the trade war was the destruction of Mexican food sovereignty. Farmers were no longer self-sufficient. They were now victims of the global market's volatility. And in that instability, the mafia found its strength. In the early years of the agreement, no one imagined a fruit would cause this much death. It was seen as a symbol of development, but that shine was an illusion. No one talked about the mass graves hidden behind the orchards. Human rights were not in the trade documents. Only profit mattered. Only the growth rate. The Mexican government told the world it was a rising tiger, but inside, it was becoming a narco-state. NAFTA accelerated this rot. These historical roots are deep. They are tangled in the soil of every orchard. To understand the present, we must look at these stories. The stories of farmers who lost their peace. The stories of families who lost their sons to the cartel armies. NAFTA put Mexico on a path with no easy exit. The trade war continues today. Only the weapons have changed. Today we see drones and IEDs, but the foundation was laid in those air-conditioned meeting rooms in the 90s. The signature on the 1994 treaty is still a nightmare for the Mexican peasant. The history of the avocado teaches us a hard lesson. Trade without ethics is destruction. NAFTA opened the market, but it closed the door on safety. It brought the money, but it took away the justice. This is why the soil of Michoacán is red today. This is why the green gold is a curse. The violence we see now did not happen overnight. It was fed for decades. It was watered by bad policy and global greed. The impact of NAFTA went beyond Mexico. It questioned the very morality of our global supply chains. Can we sacrifice a nation for cheap produce? As the 90s ended, the cartels shifted their strategy. They were no longer just chasing white powder. They were chasing anything that turned a profit. And avocados were the ultimate prize. NAFTA had cleared the way. This era of trade war proved that greed has no limits. The historical roots of the 1990s are the foundation of today's blood crisis. Without understanding this, we cannot talk about solutions. NAFTA was an economic experiment that proved fatal for the Mexican people. It planted the seeds of ruin in the name of progress. Today, those seeds have grown into a toxic forest, a forest that shadows all of Mexico. This is a lesson the world must remember. Trade can never be more valuable than life. But in 1994, the world forgot. And today, the price is being paid in blood. A reality we see every morning on our plates. The legacy of NAFTA is not just trade statistics. Its legacy is the violence that destroyed millions of homes. Its legacy is the corruption that runs through the veins of the state. And its greatest legacy is the blood avocado, the demand that continues to grow while the bodies continue to pile up. The trade war of the 90s gave Mexico wounds that may never heal. The economic shift of 1994 is the root of today's humanitarian disaster. We can no longer look away. We must see the depth of the tragedy. We must see how a treaty signed in ink resulted in a country covered in blood. This is the dark chapter of history that we must turn, so future generations know the true price of their food, and how a simple fruit became the centerpiece of a global crime. The early 2000s marked a dark shift in the history of Mexico. In the rugged mountains of Michoacán, a new and terrifying wave was rising. Until then, the word cartel meant white powder. It meant hidden runways and secret tunnels, but the game was about to change forever. A new organization emerged from the shadows. They called themselves La Familia Michoacana. This was not just a criminal gang. They presented themselves as a holy order. They claimed to be the protectors of Mexican culture. They claimed to defend the family unit. They even staged a fake war against chemical drugs. They promised to keep Michoacán safe from outside invaders. But this was the beginning of the largest commercial kidnapping in history. La Familia realized a hard truth. Real power was not on the streets. It was in the fields. They saw that the avocado trade was more stable than cocaine. The world needed this fruit. They decided to turn that necessity into a nightmare. They created a new model of organized crime. It was called systemic extortion. This model had a name that still makes farmers tremble. They called it piso, or quota. It is a word that means floor, or quota. La Familia shifted its gaze from the drug routes to the green gold. They decided to tax everything that grew from the earth. They turned extortion into a corporate science. This was not random robbery. This was a sophisticated tax system. But the receipt for this tax was a bullet. They began gathering intelligence on every single farmer. They knew exactly how many trees each man owned. They knew the projected yield for every harvest season. They didn't guess. They infiltrated government agricultural offices. They stole the records. They knew the data better than the farmers themselves. Mexican intelligence reports confirm this. Local officials were either bought or terrified into silence. With this data, the cartel built an inescapable web of theft. The mathematics of this extortion were cold and precise. La Familia dictated a fixed price for every kilo of avocados. If a farmer owned 1 hectare, he paid a specific fee. If he moved his fruit to a packaging plant, he paid an entry fee. Even the truck drivers had to pay for every trip they made. No one was exempt. There was no place to hide. If a farmer refused to pay, the message was delivered instantly. It didn't come in a letter. His orchards were burned to the ground. His family members were snatched from their homes. La Familia turned violence into a formal language. In 2006, they horrified the world. 5 human heads were tossed onto a nightclub floor in Uruapan. A message was left with them. It spoke of divine justice. This so-called divine justice was pure terror. The leader of La Familia was Nazario Moreno. He was known as El Mas Loco. He declared himself a messiah. He carried a self-written Bible. He taught his soldiers that taking money from farmers was a holy right. He claimed they were providing protection, but the protection was from the violence they themselves created. It was a sick paradox. The farmers became tenants on their own ancestral land. They worked under the scorching sun from dawn till dusk. They paid for the seeds. They paid for the fertilizer. But when it was time to profit, the cartel was there. They took 30 to 40% of the total earnings. Local police records show that complaints during this time were 0. People were too scared to even think about the police. The police were often the ones enforcing the cartel's will. La Familia did not stop at the farmers. They hijacked the entire supply chain. Companies selling fertilizer had to pay a tax. Companies exporting the fruit had to give a cut of every shipment. Even the poor laborers who picked the fruit were not spared. A small portion of their meager daily wage went into the cartel's pocket. This was the first model of extortion that successfully drained an entire state's economy. While avocado prices rose in London and New York, the farmers in Mexico grew poorer. They struggled to cover their basic costs. Many were forced to take loans. When they couldn't pay the cartel seized their land. During this era, La Familia did something even more dangerous. They used the avocado trade as a massive money laundering machine. They took their dirty drug money and invested it in legitimate orchards. They bought legal companies. They became owners of packaging plants. Their black money began to turn white. On the international stage, they looked like successful businessmen, but their empire was built on the blood of the innocent. According to Mexican intelligence, the cartel placed a representative in every municipality. This person decided who could sell fruit and who could not. They even began to manipulate global market prices. If they felt the price was too low, they blocked the trucks. They created artificial shortages to drive up their profits. This model of extortion was so successful that other cartels began to copy it. La Familia proved that you could make billions without ever selling a gram of drugs. They showed how an entire population could be held hostage. They used religion and fake morality to suppress dissent. They donated small amounts of money to the poor. They built churches. They repaired roads. It was all a hollow show. It was a mask for their atrocities. Behind closed doors, they were butchers. Farmers began to fear for their daughters. Cartel members would often kidnap village girls at will. This was the beginning of a total social collapse. By 2010, the model had reached its peak. There was not a single corner of Michoacán left untouched. Every single avocado leaving Mexico carried the weight of this extortion. Consumers in the West were eating for their health, but they were unknowingly feeding a monster. When you pick up an avocado in a supermarket, you are not just buying a fruit. You are supporting the system that brought it there. La Familia understood this deeply. They turned Western luxury into the engine of Mexican destruction. Around 2011, internal rifts began to tear La Familia apart. But the model they created did not die. From their remains came an even more fanatical group, the Knights Templar. They took the science of extortion to a new level, but the foundation was the same. It was built on fear. A fear that reaches the soul. A fear that turns a father against his own son. Intelligence reports show that thousands of farmers fled during this time. They sold their land for pennies. They ran toward the U.S. border to save their lives. But for those who stayed, the gates of hell had opened. La Familia ensured that no outsider would ever know the full truth. They threatened journalists. They murdered activists who dared to speak. Michoacán became an island where the sun of the law never rose. Only the moon of La Familia shone there. And in that moonlight, only corpses were visible. This model of extortion is still active in many parts of Mexico today. The names have changed. The methods have become even more brutal. But history will always remember La Familia as the demon that turned a fruit into a weapon of death. They were the ones who measured a farmer's hard work by the barrel of a gun. When we look at the crisis of 2024 to 2026, we must remember where it started. It started with the greed of La Familia. They turned agriculture into a war zone. They gave Mexico a wound that is still bleeding today. They poured poison into the soul of the nation. That poison has now spread through the global supply chain. The entry of La Familia was the turning point in Mexican history. There was no going back. They made crime a culture. They made extortion a right. They stained the green gold forever. The end of this phase is not just the story of a fallen organization. It is the story of the birth of a system that held a nation hostage for decades. The blueprint La Familia designed remains the favorite of every new cartel. The tears of the farmers and their helplessness were the true currency of this empire. That currency is still being traded in the markets today. The hills of Michoacán are still witnesses to that era. The echoes of La Familia's messages still hang in the air. They told the world that they were the law. Today, when a new day dawns, the Mexican farmer still carries that same old fear in his eyes. This fear is the greatest legacy of La Familia, a legacy that perhaps no one can ever erase. Every bite of an avocado today is a reminder of that dark origin. The birth of the piso was the death of peace, and the blood on the plate began to flow from here. La Familia Michoacana collapsed. But the nightmare did not end. A new shadow emerged from the ruins. They called themselves the Knights Templar, or Los Caballeros Templarios. They stole their name from history. They modeled themselves after medieval crusaders. But their cause was not holy. Their mission was blood. Their goal was gold. They claimed to be defenders of the faith. They created a constitution. They published a manifesto. It was a small, pocket-sized booklet. Every member was forced to carry it. It claimed they fought for the poor. It claimed they were against drugs. It said they protected Mexican culture. It was a massive deception. It was a carefully crafted lie. They built outposts in the mountains. They wore white robes. A red cross was stitched on the chest. They called themselves Knights. This was not just a criminal gang. It was a fanatical, bloodthirsty cult. Now look at the avocado. The Knights Templar treated the orchards like their personal temples. They stopped merely taxing the farmers. They became the absolute owners of the land. They decided who could pick the fruit. They decided which market the crates would go to. They placed an agent in every packing plant. Not a single leaf could move without their permission. They turned the city of Uruapan into their headquarters. Every local merchant had to pay them a cut. They created a system called coordination. It meant absolute, suffocating control. They forced their way into farmers' meetings. They dictated the price of the harvest. They even stole government subsidies meant for irrigation. The money went into their pockets. The farmers were left with nothing. Nazario Moreno was back. The leader they called El Mas Loco. The government said he was dead. A shootout in the mountains supposedly killed him. But he was alive. He became a ghost. Then he became a god. People began to call him Saint Nazario. They built shrines to him. They prayed to his image. It was a peak of collective madness. A drug lord was turned into a deity. He issued a divine decree. Every farmer had to give 10% of their crop. He called it the diezmo. The tithe. This money was taken in the name of God, but it was spent on assault rifles. It was used to buy rocket launchers. It was used to corrupt every official in the state. The testimonies of survivors are chilling. A farmer who paid late was summoned to a temple. He was tortured. He was forced to recite the Templar Code. It was a period of total psychological slavery. The streets of Michoacán are silent witnesses. They saw the people who disappeared overnight. The Templar manifesto said they were bringing justice, but their justice was a corpse hanging from a bridge. They sent a clear message. If you are not with us, you are an enemy. They spread their ideology in schools. They turned small children into spies. They called these kids halcones, the hawks. These children tracked every truck. They knew which shipments were going to America. They knew exactly how much each load was worth. The Knights Templar knew everything. They forced export companies to use their services. They owned the transport trucks. They owned the security teams. It was a billion-dollar empire built on green fruit. In America and Europe, the demand reached a fever pitch. People were enjoying their avocado salads. They were posting photos of their superfood bowls. They had no idea. They didn't know the fruit came from a cult that believed in medieval barbarism. The Western demand was the fuel for the fire. Every dollar spent at a grocery store bought an AK-47 in Mexico. Every healthy choice destroyed a Mexican home. The Knights Templar had hijacked the entire production chain. They seized control of the Junta Local de Sanidad Vegetal. This is the government body that inspects fruit health. Without their certificate, no fruit can enter the United States. Templar gunmen put pistols to the heads of inspectors. They forced them to sign fake papers. Illegal orchards were suddenly legal. Your organic avocado was grown on stolen land. It was watered with the blood of the innocent. Mexican intelligence reports are a horror story. They reveal how the Templars laundered their wealth. They bought luxury restaurants. They built sprawling hotels. They took out government loans for farming. They were no longer just criminals. They were the elite of society. They performed acts of charity. They paid for church festivals. They tried to win the hearts of the people. But it was not love. It was raw, naked terror. People knew the price of dissent. If you spoke out, your whole family died. The Knights Templar held their own courts. They settled family disputes. They ruled on land arguments. They were a state within a state. They ignored the Mexican Constitution. They only followed their manifesto. During this time, global avocado prices spiked. The cartel rejoiced. They increased the tax per hectare. They seized the water sources. Even farmers who didn't grow avocados had to pay. The Templars began to burn the forests. They created thousands of acres of illegal orchards. These groves were invisible on official maps. But they were very real. They were protected by corruption. Intelligence reports suggest the rot went to the top. Even the son of a former governor was linked to the cult. The system was decaying from within. The law had no power here. The cruelty of the Templar rule was systematic. They held massive parties. Farmers were forced to attend. They were forced to participate in rituals. They had to wear white capes. They had to swear loyalty to the order. It was pure brainwashing. They convinced the world they were revolutionaries. They gave interviews to international journalists. They called themselves social fighters, but in reality, they were parasites. They were sucking the life out of the avocado trade. Reports suggest they made $150 million a year from extortion alone. This was on top of their drug profits. They became the wealthiest cartel in the country. They had a fleet of armored vehicles. They had sniper rifles and grenades. Their army had thousands of fighters. These men were ready to do anything. They seized the port of Lázaro Cárdenas. They exported iron ore to China. They imported chemical precursors for meth. The avocado was the foundation of it all. It was a legal business. It provided a perfect cover for their darkness. Between 2012 and 2013, their power was absolute. Farmers were broken. They had to wait in line at cartel offices to sell their fruit. They were audited by gunmen. Witnesses described the horror in the fields. Cartel members would walk through the orchards. They counted every tree. They estimated the weight of the fruit. If a farmer lied about his yield, he was punished. He was whipped, or his land was taken away. The Templars created a new law. The land belongs to those loyal to the knights. Ancestral owners became slaves on their own soil. It was modern feudalism. It was a dark age hidden in the 21st century. Peace vanished from Uruapan. Everywhere you looked, there were Templar banners. Each one featured the face of Nazario Moreno. For the Western markets, this was all invisible. The advertising campaigns continued. The avocado was a symbol of love and health, but no one saw the pain inside the skin. The Knights Templar proved they could bend any system. They even targeted multinational corporations. Global companies had to pay protection money. They paid to keep their plants from being burned. It was the kidnapping of a global supply chain, and the world watched in silence. By the end of 2013, the Templars had swallowed the soul of Michoacán. Their power seemed infinite. The government had surrendered, but in the darkness, a spark appeared. The patience of the farmers had run out. The religious talk of the Templars was revealed as a hollow joke. People realized these were not protectors. They were predators. But to resist meant certain death, yet something was brewing in the mountains. An uprising was coming. The rule of the Knights Templar remains a black stain on history. They showed how religion and greed create hell on earth. They turned the avocado into a bloody symbol. It is a symbol that cannot be forgotten. This era is a reminder of the Templar Manifesto. It spoke of justice, but brought only suffering. It promised safety, but delivered only ruin. They turned orchards into battlefields. They turned the sweat of farmers into blood, all for a fruit that sits on your plate. The story of the Knights Templar is a warning. It shows what happens when a killer is treated as a god. Humanity is the first sacrifice, and the avocado was the witness. It still carries the bitterness of those years. The sound of the white horses still haunts the memory of Michoacán. Every home still echoes with the sobs of the broken. This reign was a lesson. Trade can never be more valuable than ethics, but for the Knights Templar, money was the only god. And they destroyed thousands of lives to worship it. Every bite of an avocado today is a silent echo of that terror. The red cross in the green fields was the mark of death, and that mark is hard to wash away. Every human being has a breaking point. For the farmers of Michoacán, that point was reached in 2013. The fear of decades had finally turned into a burning rage. The Knights Templar had crossed every line of humanity. They were no longer just demanding money. They were stealing dignity. They were walking into homes and taking daughters. They were entering weddings and kidnapping brides. Fathers were forced to watch the execution of their own sons. The law was a corpse. The government was blind and deaf. The local police were puppets of the cartel. There was only darkness. But then, a single spark flew. It started in a small town called Tepalcatepec. The date was February 24th, 2013. This date would be etched in Mexican history forever. A group of farmers made a choice. They said no more. They refused to run. They decided to die on their feet rather than live on their knees. They pulled out old hunting rifles. They cleaned their licensed pistols. They put on simple white t-shirts. On the chest, they wrote one word: Autodefensas, self-defense. The movement found its face in Dr. Jose Manuel Morelos. He was a simple, small-town physician, but the tragedy of his people turned him into a legend. His long mustache and silver hair became a symbol of defiance. He gathered the people in the town square. He told them that if they did not fight today, they would vanish tomorrow. He organized the orchard owners. He united the laborers who were tired of paying the paiso tax. This was a civilian army. There was no formal training. There were no uniforms. There was only one goal: to cleanse their land of the demons. It started small. They took over the checkpoints in their town. They chased away the cartel scouts. The news spread like a wildfire through the mountains. Farmers in neighboring villages rose up, in La Ruana and Uruapan. The revolution was ignited. Suddenly, it was a massive movement. Thousands of farmers were marching on the highways. They were no longer afraid. They stood in front of the armored trucks of the cartel. The gunmen of the Knights Templar began to retreat. They never expected simple peasants to pick up a gun. The farmers turned their tractors into makeshift tanks. They built stone outposts to guard their avocado groves. The world began to watch. Western media called it a David versus Goliath battle. Documentaries like Cartel Land captured the raw pain of the struggle. People in the US and Europe were shocked. For the first time, they saw the reality behind their morning toast. They saw sweat-drenched men guarding fruit with assault rifles. But the war was complicated. It was a three-way battle: the cartels, the vigilantes, and the Mexican government. The government was worried about its image. As long as the cartel was killing people, the officials were silent. But when the farmers took up arms, the state woke up. They called the movement illegal. They demanded the farmers disarm. But the farmers refused. They said they would not drop their weapons until the last Templar was dead. Dr. Morelos challenged the president of Mexico directly. He said the state failed to protect them. He said they had a natural right to survive. It became a massive political crisis. International human rights groups supported the farmers. They argued that self-defense is a fundamental human right when the law disappears. The movement grew stronger every day. The Autodefensas liberated town after town. Everywhere they went, people greeted them with flowers. People wept as they told stories of the horrors they endured. The vigilantes opened the cartel's secret torture rooms. They found human remains buried in the backyards of luxury villas. The rage of the farmers grew. They swore to wipe Michoacán clean. In the avocado orchards, the patrols were now constant. The tax no longer went to the cartel. It went to the defense fund. The money was used to buy better weapons and ammunition. But this is where the story takes a dark, tragic turn. Power and money can swallow even the purest ideals. As the movement grew, cracks began to appear. Dr. Morelos was injured in a mysterious plane crash. In his absence, the leadership shifted to others. New figures emerged whose intentions were not clear. They were called the perdonados, the forgiven, These were men who were once part of the cartel but had switched sides. They put on the white shirts of the Autodefensas, but their hearts were still criminal. They began to rot the movement from the inside. They started practicing the same extortion they once fought. They began seizing lands for themselves. Internal feuds broke out. The movement that started for justice was becoming its own problem. The Mexican government saw this weakness. They played a clever, cynical game. They offered to legalize the movement. They proposed the creation of the Rural Guard. They told the farmers to join the official security forces. Dr. Mireles resisted. He called it a trap to domesticate the lions, but many other leaders fell for the bait. They wanted the official badges. They wanted government protection. The movement shattered into pieces. Dr. Mireles was eventually arrested and thrown into a high-security prison. He was charged with illegal weapon possession. It was a heartbreaking end for a hero. The man who saved thousands was now behind bars. Betrayed by the state he tried to help. The white shirts were now stained. Under the name of the Rural Guard, many criminals received legal licenses to carry guns. The remnants of the Knights Templar simply changed their shirts. They were back to their old ways. Now with government backing, the shadow returned to the avocado groves. In the infighting between vigilantes, many true farmers were killed. Hipólito Mora, another legendary leader, famously said they had chased away one devil only to invite another. This was the tragedy of Mexico. Whenever the common man stands up, the system crushes him, or it turns him into a monster. In the West, the demand for avocados never stopped. Consumers thought the situation had improved. Headlines were announcing the fall of the cartels. But the truth was that the cartels had only shed their skin. They were now hidden in the official files of the state. They controlled the supply chain with even more precision. The orchards that were destroyed during the uprising were seized by these new leaders. The theft of water increased. The environmental destruction accelerated because now there was no one left to stop them. The Rural Guard opened their own protection businesses. Every truck was still taxed. Only now, it was called a security fee. When Dr. Mireles finally walked out of prison, the world had moved on. His movement was a ghost. The streets of Michoacán were filled with the same old dread. But this time, the dread was deeper. Because the people had lost hope. They had seen that even picking up a gun is not a permanent solution. They saw that the government's policies were just a theater. The state never wanted the farmers to be powerful. They wanted the cartels and the farmers to kill each other. So the game of power could continue. New players were arriving at the border. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, was waiting to exploit the vacuum. Today, this uprising looks like an unfinished dream. A dream where farmers tried to write their own destiny. But the pen was stolen by the mafia and the politicians. This phase teaches us a brutal lesson. Justice cannot be found at the end of a barrel in a corrupt system. The orchards of Michoacán still bear witness to the martyrs, the men who died in white t-shirts, the men who thought their children would pick fruit in a free land. But today, the bullets still fly. Today, mothers still weep for their sons. The collapse of the Autodefensas created a massive void. In that void, the most dangerous cartels were born. Many former members of the vigilantes are now professional criminals. They know how to fight. They know the terrain. They know the soul of the farmer. They used their skills for the wrong side. A holy movement turned its own children into predators. This is the most painful chapter of Mexican history, where hope itself became a weapon, and that weapon killed its own people. Dr. Mireles is no longer with us, but his story still inspires and haunts. He was a flawed hero, but he did what no government ever dared to do. He taught the people to speak. He showed that it is possible to stand up against tyranny, no matter the cost. His memories are buried in the red soil of Michoacán. The echo of the uprising still lingers in the avocado trees, when a doctor and his farmers challenged the most dangerous cult in the world. But the reality is that the rebellion was strangled, and today Mexico stands in a new, even more terrifying era, where the enemy is harder to identify. The Western world must understand this. When they buy an avocado, they are not just buying a fruit. They are part of a struggle where thousands of lives have been consumed. The story of the Autodefensas is not just a Mexican story. It is a human story. It is the story of people rising against injustice. And it is the story of a system that joins hands with criminals to destroy them. Michoacán is still burning. But in that fire, you no longer see the warriors in white shirts. There is only smoke. There is only silence, a silence that precedes a storm. This is the end of the uprising that history tried to forget. But the farmers remember. They know they once tasted victory, and perhaps they will be ready to give their lives for it again. Because when there is no other way to live, fighting is the only path left. This is the bitter truth of the green gold, written in blood, watered with tears. The journey continues, and the next destination is even more haunting. The movement of the Autodefensas had collapsed. A dangerous vacuum emerged in Michoacán. From this void, a new monster was born. It is called the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. This is not just a street gang. It is a modern private army. Its leader is El Mencho. He is the most wanted man on earth. The CJNG changed the rules of the old cartels. They gave war a new face. Now the battle is not just in the alleys. The war is now about technology. It is about heavy machinery. They made the avocado belt their primary target, because that is where the money is. That is where the green gold grows. They showed their power on the borders of Michoacán. They introduced modern warfare to the orchards. The most terrifying tool is the drone. Death is falling from the sky. The CJNG turned commercial drones into weaponized bombers. They attach C4 explosives to these machines. They control them with high-precision GPS. A farmer is working his land. Suddenly, a small buzzing machine appears above. Then, there is a massive explosion. This technology has become a nightmare for the Mexican Ministry of Defense. According to SEDENA reports, there were hundreds of drone attacks in 2024 and 2025. These strikes occurred mainly in Uruapan and Tepalcatepec. The cartel has its own drone operators. They train them in secret camps. They know exactly how to target security forces. They know how to blow up the homes of farmers who resist. This is a psychological war. Farmers are now afraid to even look at the sky. The second great weapon is the monstruos. These are homemade tanks. The cartel builds them in hidden workshops. They weld thick steel plates onto heavy trucks. They install bulletproof glass. They mount high-caliber machine guns on the roofs. These vehicles are often stronger than military Humvees. The CJNG has a massive fleet of these monsters. They drive them directly through the avocado groves. These tanks crush the trees. They are a symbol of absolute terror on the roads. Video footage from Reuters shows the horror of these machines. They are the cruelest part of modern warfare. The local police vehicles cannot stop them. They are outgunned and out-armored. The CJNG used digital technology to control the supply chain. They forced GPS trackers onto the delivery trucks. They know exactly where every truck is. They monitor the live location of every shipment. If a truck does not follow their route, it is destroyed. They have hacked the software of export companies. They have access to every business deal. They know exactly how much each farmer was paid. This is a high-tech heist. They do not just pull triggers anymore. They use data and coding. Consumers in the US and Europe pick up a fruit from a store. They have no idea. They don't know a narco software was tracking that fruit. The terror of IEDs has increased. These are improvised explosive devices. The CJNG has planted landmines all around the avocado orchards. These mines are equipped with sophisticated sensors. SEDENA has deactivated thousands of these traps, but the cartel plants new ones every single day. According to reports, many farmers have lost their legs in these blasts. Innocent laborers have been killed. The orchards are no longer places for farming. They have become minefields. The cartel has blockaded its territory. They do not allow any outsiders to enter. Even the military faces heavy resistance. The financial power of the CJNG is infinite. They earn billions of dollars a year. Avocados are a massive part of this wealth. They use this money to buy even more dangerous weapons. They have sniper rifles that can hit a target from a mile away. They have anti-aircraft guns. They have tried to shoot down military helicopters. This is a direct challenge to the sovereignty of Mexico. The demand from Western markets is funding this war. Every time you buy a premium avocado, you are unknowingly paying a tiny installment for a drone strike. This is the bitter truth. Satellite imagery reveals the scale of forest destruction. The CJNG is illegally clearing the jungles. They plant new orchards overnight. They protect these groves with their private army. Data from Global Forest Watch shows thousands of hectares of forest vanishing every year. This is not just environmental damage. It is a war strategy. Clearing the forest means removing places for enemies to hide. The cartel wants open land so their drones can operate easily. They are playing a dangerous game with nature. The damage is irreversible. The CJNG has created an elite wing. These fighters look like professional special forces. They wear the same tactical uniforms. They use the same high-end gear. They have night vision goggles. They carry out attacks in total darkness. In the villages around Uruapan, the only sound at night is explosions. People are building bunkers under their houses. They hide there to save their lives. It has become a war zone like Syria or Ukraine, but the world only sees it as a rising price of fruit. There is very little discussion in international media because the cartels have silenced the journalists. According to Mexican intelligence, the CJNG has increased imports from China. They import chemical precursors and drone parts. They bring these parts through Mexican ports. Then, they assemble them in secret factories. This is a global network. The avocado money acts as the fuel. They have built their own communication system. They install their own radio towers. They use encrypted apps. The police cannot listen to their conversations. They are always 2 steps ahead of the law. This is the greatest failure of modern governance. The criminals have outpaced the state in technology. In the avocado belt, the new name for fear is Jalisco. They have completely wiped out the old Knights Templar. They are now the undisputed masters of this region. They take a cut from every packing house. They force every exporter to be their partner. If someone refuses, their entire family is eliminated. They have execution squads. These men are trained only for murder. These squads post their videos on social media. They show off their power. They want to show that the Mexican government is helpless. They want the world to know they are the real law. This is a massive challenge for Western governments. The United States has labeled the CJNG a major threat, but they cannot stop the trade. The demand for avocados is so high that political pressure fails. People do not want to sacrifice their lifestyle. This greed makes the CJNG stronger. As long as the flow of dollars and euros continues, the bombs will keep falling from drones. The landmines will keep being planted. This is a war that starts in your dining room. It ends in the fields of Mexico. A confidential report from SEDENA revealed another secret. The cartel has started building remote-controlled armored vehicles. No human needs to sit inside. They can be operated from a distance. This is a level of warfare that can terrify any national army. The CJNG has its own engineers. They kidnap them or hire them with massive salaries. This misuse of technology is unprecedented. A technological war of this scale for a fruit seems unbelievable. But it is the reality. By 2026, this conflict has become even more violent. It is no longer just about bullets. There is electronic warfare happening now. Jammers are used so the police drones cannot function. It is a total system of war. The Mexican farmers are being crushed in the middle. Their harvest now carries a cartel stamp. Their water is under cartel control. Their lives depend on a GPS tracker. This is the darkest story of the green gold. It is the barbarism of the modern age made worse by technology. The soil of Michoacán no longer grows just fruit. It grows gunpowder and hatred. The CJNG has turned this land into a lab. They test their weapons here. And you and I are paying for this lab every time we enjoy guacamole. We become a small stakeholder in this war machine. This is something to think about. Is technology and modernity making us more violent? Is the price of a fruit worth more than thousands of innocent lives? The rise of the CJNG is a warning. It is a warning that criminals no longer hide in alleys. They attack from the sky. They are hidden in your data. They own your markets. This war system is now global. It affects every table where an avocado sits. Michoacán is weeping. Technology is killing it. And the world is still silent. This phase is the document of this bitter and modern reality. Written in blood and silicon, the war for the green gold has entered the digital age. And the cost is higher than ever before. Every bite is a bullet. Every salad is a sensor. This is the rise of the digital cartel and the fall of human peace. The machines are buzzing. The fields are burning. And the blood is still flowing. Day after day, tree after tree, under the shadow of the drone. In the heart of the modern crisis, the CJNG has won the technical war, and the farmer has lost everything. The consumer is the only one who can stop the circuit. But will they, or is the taste too good to care? The answer is, on your plate, right now. In the silence of the suburb, in the violence of the orchard. This is the modern truth. You have been told that trees give life, but in the mountains of Mexico, trees are bringing death. These are avocado trees. On the surface, they look beautiful. They are lush and green, but beneath their roots lies a massive graveyard. We call it green gold. In reality, it is an environmental slaughter. This is a silent killing. This destruction did not happen overnight. It is the result of decades of unchecked greed. The soul of Michoacán's forests is weeping. The air here is no longer fresh. It smells of gunpowder and toxic chemicals. This is not just the story of a fruit. It is the story of the death of an entire ecosystem. A death that remains invisible from your dining table. It starts with the sound of a chainsaw. The mountains of Michoacán were once covered in thick pine and fir forests. These were the lungs of Mexico. They were home to thousands of species. Now, there are only avocado trees. The cartels have mastered a new technique. It is called girdling. They cut a ring through the bark at the base of a pine tree. The tree begins to die slowly. It looks green from a distance, but it is a standing corpse. Then, one night, a fire accidentally breaks out. These are not natural wildfires. They are acts of arson. Once the forest is turned to ash, the orchards appear overnight. Data from Global Forest Watch is terrifying. More than 20,000 hectares of forest are burned every year in Michoacán. It is a calculated conspiracy. It is the only way to make illegal farming look legal on paper. Satellite imagery shows the brutal truth. Where there was once deep, dark green forest, there are now light green patches of orchards. These trees stand in perfect rows like disciplined soldiers. But these soldiers are enemies of the earth. Pine trees act like sponges. They absorb water. They trigger rainfall. They hold the soil together. Avocado trees do the exact opposite. They suck the land dry. They weaken the soil. When the rains come, the earth simply washes away. Landslides have become a common tragedy. Thousands of villages are now at risk. Nature is taking its revenge. But the cartels do not care. They only care about the next shipment. Now let's talk about the water. To grow a single avocado, it takes 320 liters of water. Think about that number, thousands of liters, for just 1 kilo of fruit. Where does this water come from? The cartels have diverted the paths of rivers. They have laid illegal pipelines through the mountains. They have dug thousands of unauthorized wells. They are draining the underground aquifers. Reports from hydrologists are sounding the alarm. The water table in Michoacán is dropping by meters every year. The wells of local people have run dry. Rivers that flowed for generations are now filled with dust. Lake Pátzcuaro is the ultimate warning. This ancient lake is shrinking. Its water is being stolen to quench the thirst of the green gold. Human thirst has no value here. This is not just theft. It is the theft of the future. When the underground water is gone, the land will turn into a desert. Nothing will grow. Not avocados, not corn, not life. But the cartels do not look at tomorrow. They only see today's profit. They have seized control of water sources at gunpoint. If a local farmer asks for water for his crops, he receives a death threat. Water has become a weapon of war. Water wars have already begun in many parts of Michoacán. People are begging for a single drop, while in the mountains above, the green gold flourishes. The chemical assault is even more deadly. Avocado trees require massive amounts of pesticides. The cartels use chemicals that are strictly banned in the US and Europe. They spray these poisons from drones and small planes. The poison does not just kill bugs. It enters the air, it mixes with the rain, and flows into the rivers. The impact on surrounding villages is horrific. Respiratory diseases in children are surging. Cancer rates are touching the sky. The rate of miscarriages in pregnant women has spiked. Many children are being born with permanent disabilities. Doctors are terrified. They want to speak the truth, but they are silenced by fear. This is a chemical genocide. The bees are dying. Bees are essential for pollination. Without them, agriculture is impossible. But the chemicals have wiped them out. This loss of biodiversity is irreversible. Birds no longer sing in these orchards. Wild animals are nowhere to be seen. It has become a silent desert, a place where only money grows, and where life gasps for breath. The monarch butterflies of Mexico are also victims. They travel thousands of miles from Canada to find a home here. Their sanctuaries are being burned. Their flight paths are filled with toxic orchards. This butterfly paradise has been turned into a hell. The signs of climate change are undeniable. The temperature in Michoacán is rising. The air used to be cool and humid. Now it is hot and dry. The rain cycles are broken. Hailstorms and unseasonal rains are now frequent. This is nature's warning. But we are ignoring it. We want our avocado toast at any cost. In the West, we talk about sustainability. We look for organic labels, but no one looks at the rot behind those labels. The Mexican Ministry of Environment is helpless. They have no budget, and the officials who are honest are on the cartel hit lists. Corruption has paved the way for this destruction. The cartels have bought the local forest officials. They forge land titles. They declare illegal orchards as old plantations. They manipulate satellite data. This is an organized crime. It is a partnership between the mafia and the administration. Whenever an activist raises their voice, they disappear. Homero Gomez Gonzalez is the face of this tragedy. He was the protector of the monarch butterflies. He fought against illegal logging. He was murdered. His death shook the world. But the logging did not stop. The homes of the butterflies are still burning. This is not just Mexico's problem. This is a global warming crisis. Like the Amazon these Mexican forests used to keep the planet cool. By cutting them down, carbon emissions are rising. We talk about carbon credits in the West, but we fund the trade that kills the trees. This is a massive hypocrisy. Western consumers must understand. Your healthy choice is unhealthy for the planet. Your preference has birthed a toxic and bloody system. This silent killing continues. With every purchase you make, scientists predict that by 2030, half of Michoacán's forests will be gone. If that happens, a desert will be born. The water will vanish. And when the water vanishes, the exodus will begin. Millions of people will be forced to leave their land. This will create a climate refugee crisis. Are we ready for that? Can a fruit be worth this much? What we are doing to nature is suicidal. We are cutting the branch we are sitting on. The avocado orchards look green today, but tomorrow they will be nothing but dry stumps. This environmental genocide is not just the death of trees, It is the death of our morality. It is the defeat of our empathy. We have placed profit above nature. We have valued guns more than forests. There is only dust and ash on the soil of Michoacán. The rivers are now flowing with tears. And us, we are still searching for the perfect avocado in the supermarket. We are still living in the world of advertisements, where everything is green and pleasant, but the truth is bitter. The truth is frightening. This phase is a mirror. It shows us where the blind race for development is leading. We must feel the gasping pain of the land. We must see the broken wings of the butterflies. We must hear the silent screams of the children. They are forced to breathe poisoned air. This environmental slaughter must stop. But it will not stop until we stop demanding it. Until we demand transparency in the supply chain. Until we identify the hands that give us fruit with one hand and poison with the other. Only smoke is visible in the mountains of Michoacán. It is the smoke of a civilization we have burned. It is the smoke of a future we have sold. The avocado orchard is a beautiful deception. Behind it stands a barren desert. It is waiting for us. This silent killing is no longer silent. Its echo must be heard across the world. Because if we stay silent today, there will be nothing left to say tomorrow. There will only be soil, and it will be covered in blood. This phase is the evidence of a disaster. It is happening every second. In front of us, right under our eyes, but beyond our understanding. It is time to wake up. It is time to see the reality of this bloody and toxic fruit. Nature will not wait anymore. She will demand an account, and that account will be very expensive. The green gold is a debt that the earth can no longer pay. Stop. Think. The forest is gone. The water is gone. What is left on your plate? Just the taste of a dying world. This is the end of the forest, and the beginning of the end. The supermarket aisles are quiet. The air is cold. The lights are bright and sterile. Everything looks perfect here. You walk into the organic section. You see rows of beautiful green avocados. They have "Product of Mexico" stickers on them. They carry fair trade labels. You pick one up. You feel its weight. You feel its soft texture. You put it in your basket. You believe you are making a healthy choice. You think you are doing something good for your body. But this shine is a curtain, a very thick and dark curtain. This fruit has traveled thousands of miles. That journey was not just on highways. It was a journey through blood. It was a journey through deep corruption. The fruit in your hand has a history, a terrifying history. Behind that sticker is a truth the big corporations will never tell you. The story starts in the orchard. The soil there is mixed with gunpowder. The fruit is picked from the tree. That is where the first link of the chain begins. That is also where the cartel's share begins. The truck leaves the orchard. It is stopped within minutes. Men in masks stand in the road. They hold AK-47s. They don't want the driver's license. They want the security receipt. This is not a government document. This is a cartel tax receipt. Without it, the truck cannot move an inch. The driver knows the rules. If he does not stop, his truck will burn, or his body will be found in the bushes. Every single kilo is taxed. This money goes straight to the cartel's war chest. This is the first point of entry. This is where your money enters the world of crime. Now the truck reaches the packing plant. This is a massive facility. The fruit is sorted. It is washed. It is coated in wax. The cartel owns this place too. There are thousands of packing plants in Mexico. Many are run directly by the cartels. They use legal companies as a shield. They use them as money laundering machines. The Netflix series Rotten exposed this reality. Investigators found how criminals have infiltrated legitimate business. On paper, they look like simple traders. They have valid tax IDs. They have official export licenses. But the bank accounts tell a different story. They dump drug money into these companies. They sell avocados to pull clean money out. It is a massive financial gain. The biggest lie in the supply chain is fruit laundering. Illegal fruit is picked from stolen land. It comes from orchards built on burned forests. This fruit cannot be exported legally. It must be hidden. Cartel members mix illegal fruit with legal shipments. They forge the documents. They pay off the inspectors. They bribe the officials to look away. When the fruit leaves the plant, it is clean. It carries a certified label. Now this fruit can go anywhere in the world. There is no way to catch it. The roots of the supply chain are soaked in corruption. Financial audit reports show the truth. Many major export companies have ties to the mafia, but they are too powerful to stop. The fruit now crosses the border. It arrives at ports in Lathrop or San Diego. Thousands of containers arrive every single day. It is impossible for customs to check every crate. They only do random inspections. The cartels know this math. They use the avocado trucks to smuggle drugs. Large shipments of cocaine or fentanyl are hidden under the fruit. This is double profit. They make money from the fruit. They make a fortune from the drugs. When the truck reaches a warehouse in the US or Europe, it is split up. It is sold to large distributors. These are often multi-billion-dollar corporations. They only care about the profit margin. They don't ask which orchard the fruit came from. They only look at the papers, and the cartel has already fixed the papers. Once the fruit reaches the international market, it becomes corporate. Marketing agencies build the brand. They show you ads of sun and love. They tell you the fruit is climate-friendly. They never mention the farmer who was kidnapped. They never talk about the worker held at gunpoint. This is the dark corner of the supply chain. No light ever reaches here. Consumers think they are part of a transparent system, but in reality, they are the final gear of a killing machine. You are the fuel for that machine. Every purchase makes the machine move faster. The European market is even more complex. There are strict rules for sustainability, but the cartels found a loophole. They send the fruit through third-party countries. They create shell companies. On paper, these companies look like they are in Spain or Chile, but the fruit belongs to the bloody orchards of Mexico. This is called transshipment. It tangles the supply chain. It makes it impossible to find the source. Investigative journalists have tried to follow the trail. They often end up in the hills of Michoacán. They find the bodies on the roads, but when they publish their reports, the corporations threaten them. They call the truth propaganda. They bury the story. Financial audit reports show a clear link. The profit from the avocado trade buys the weapons. It buys the drones that drop bombs on farmers. It buys the officials who sell the law. It buys the armored trucks that crush villages. There is a straight line. It runs from your dining table to the Mexican war zone. That line is built on profit. As long as the demand stays high, the cartel will stay in control. They will never let go of this gold mine. The longer the supply chain, the deeper the truth is buried. That toast on your plate is a symbol. It is a symbol of someone's helplessness. It is a story of a destroyed home. The supply chain is a mirror. It shows us the real face of our choices. We talk about ethical consumption. We stop using plastic straws. We recycle our trash, but we don't ask about the fruit grown in the fertilizer of violence. This supply chain is a web. We are all caught in it. From the producer to the consumer, everyone is part of the game. And the mafia wrote the rules. Big companies claim they do social audits. They say they have inspected the fields. But the truth is different. The auditors travel on roads controlled by the cartels. They see only what they are allowed to see. They never talk to the farmers who are too terrified to speak. These audits are a paper exercise. They are designed to calm the consumer's conscience, so you keep buying without guilt. This is the greatest deception of the supply chain. It is sold under the name of corporate social responsibility. The truth is that the supply chain is now a weapon. The cartels have their grip on the pulse of the market. They know the world is addicted. They know the demand will never fall. So they become more violent. They are not just selling fruit. They are selling their terror. The blood that reaches your hand is actually money. It is money that buys death in Mexico. This supply chain is like a toxic vine. It has choked the entire system. It is not easy to cut. The fruit is too sweet. The fruit is too popular. Next time you go to the supermarket, stop. Before you put that green fruit in your basket, think. Think of the miles it traveled. Think of the barriers it crossed. Think of the trucks it lived in. Think of the gunshots it heard. Think of the tears it witnessed. The fruit on your plate is not just food. It is a witness. It is a witness to a system that is rotting from within. It is a story we choose to ignore. But the truth is right there. It is in your hand. It is in the bite you take. The truth of the supply chain is bitter. But we must know it. Change begins with accepting the truth. We must ask questions of the big brands. We must demand transparency. We must not be satisfied with an organic label. We must ask about the blood that flowed with this fruit. The journey of the supply chain is now clear to you, from the gunpowder of the orchard to the glow of the supermarket. It is one single bloody road, and that road ends on your plate. This truth belongs to you now. How you see it is up to you. Will you still see just a fruit? Or will you see a human tragedy? The choice is in your hands, and it is on your plate. Every single day, every single bite, stop, think. The green gold is red, and the cost is your soul. Will this bloody game ever end? Can the avocado on your plate ever be truly blood-free? This is the question. The world is facing it today. The land of Mexico is weeping. Its orchards are filled with graves. But is there a light in the future? We stand at a crossroads today. Two paths lie ahead of us. One leads to total destruction. A world where cartels rule everything. Where nature is completely dead. The other path is one of struggle and solutions. A path where technology and humanity meet. Where we can make this green gold pure again. This final phase is not just about problems. It is about the ways out. It is about the survival of a nation. It is about the soul of a fruit. The first major solution is blockchain traceability. In today's world, we can track everything. We track our packages. We track our flights. Why not the avocado? Imagine a system. Every single fruit has a QR code. You scan it with your phone at the store. You immediately see where it was grown. You see the owner of the orchard. You see if the workers were paid fairly. Most importantly, you see if that land is free from cartel control. Blockchain is an unchangeable technology. It is impossible to hack. If international companies make this mandatory, the game of fruit laundering will end. Illegal fruit will have no place in the market. This will break the back of the cartels. Their profit will stop. Their power will vanish. The second solution is international law. The European Union has started a new debate. It is called due diligence legislation. Under this law, companies must be responsible. They must prove their supply chain is clean. They must show no human rights were violated. They must show no forest was burned. The United States must strengthen the Lacey Act. Today, fruit is only checked for pests. That is not enough. We must check for blood. We must ensure our money does not fund terror. We must ensure it does not buy AK-47s. As long as corporations are not legally liable, they will keep their eyes closed. They will keep counting their profits. The third path is the rise of ethical farming. Some Mexican farmers are showing great courage. They are forming small cooperatives. They are trying to connect directly to the global market. They want to bypass the cartels. They want to ignore the middlemen. These farmers need international support. If Western markets buy directly from them, the cartel's grip will loosen. We need a blood-free certificate. We did it for diamonds with the Kimberley process. We must do it for avocados. The consumer must have a choice to buy a fruit grown in peace, a choice to support a family, not a killer. The Mexican government must change its core. Sending the army is a temporary fix. They must cut the roots of corruption. The traders in the agricultural departments must be jailed. We need digital land records. This will stop cartels from forging documents. We need satellite monitoring of the forests. If a new orchard appears overnight, it must be detected instantly. It must be destroyed by the state. Mexico must rethink its hugs, not bullets policy. Peace only comes with the fear of the law. As long as criminals are free, the farmer will never be safe. The state must be stronger than the shadow. Environmental restoration is a must. We must replant the forests that were burned. Hydrologists say we are running out of time. If we don't save the water now, Michoacán will be a desert in 10 years. We must balance traditional farming with avocados. There must be strict punishment for illegal water theft. International aid is needed to save the lakes. This is not just a Mexican issue. This is a global climate battle. If Michoacán dies, the world feels the heat. We must rebuild the sanctuaries of the butterflies. They are waiting to come home. They are waiting for the trees to return. A huge part of the solution is you. Consumer awareness is a weapon. Your choice drives the entire market. We must ask questions at the supermarket. We must start campaigns on social media. We must boycott companies that hide their sources. A drop in demand is the only thing cartels fear. They fear a loss of profit. As long as we buy without thinking, they will kill without thinking. Every cheap fruit has a high price. Someone is paying it with their life. We must choose between our lifestyle and our ethics. We must decide what we stand for. There is another possibility for the future: alternative sources of avocados. Production is growing in other countries: Colombia, Peru, parts of Africa. If the supply sources increase, the Mexican cartel monopoly will break. This will stabilize the prices. It will create healthy competition. But there is a danger here too. We must ensure the violence does not spread. Crime always follows the profit. Wherever green gold grows, the mafia will try to enter. We need a global monitoring system. We need to protect the new frontiers of farming. Can Mexico ever escape this shadow? The memories of heroes like Dr. Morelos are alive. People want change. They want peace. They want their children to wake up to silence, not to the sound of gunfire. They want the fruit of their hard work. The people of Mexico are brave. They have survived centuries of oppression. They have risen up many times. Even today, there are rebels hiding in the communities. They are planning to save their land. They just need a direction. They need the world to stand with them. By 2026, technology has given us new tools. We can use drones against the cartels. We can track their illegal shipments in real time. We can freeze their bank accounts. Cyber warfare is a valid path, destroying their communication towers, hacking their encrypted apps. This is a multi-dimensional war. It cannot be won with guns alone. It must be won with brains. It must be won with technology. And victory is possible if the world acts as one, if we stop ignoring the truth. In conclusion, the future of the avocado is in our hands. This fruit has become a symbol of our greed, a symbol of our modern struggle, but it can also be a symbol of hope, a fruit that connects communities, a fruit that strengthens nature, a fruit that brings prosperity to Mexico, not destruction. We must end the concept of the blood avocado. We must create a world where food does not cost a life. The hills of Michoacán will be green again. The rivers will flow with clean water. The butterflies will return in millions. And the farmer, he will go to his orchard with pride, not with fear in his heart. He will teach his children that this land is sacred. He will tell them it is a sin to destroy it. This dream may seem far, but it is not impossible. Every great change starts with a small step. That step is knowing the truth and acting upon it. Today we have seen every side of this story. We saw the pain. We saw the politics. We saw the environmental slaughter. And now we see the path to a solution. The ball is in your court. How do you see that fruit on your plate? Is it just a healthy breakfast? Or is it part of a global crisis? Your decision will decide the future of Mexico. Your choice will write the destiny of thousands. Of those who work under the shadow of death, remember this: the cost of change is never more than the cost of a life. We must stop being silent. We must start asking the hard questions. Mexico is weeping, but it is not dead. There is still life. There is still a spirit of resistance. It is our duty to honor that spirit. The bloody chapter of the avocado must end. A new, golden chapter must begin, where the gold is only green, where it is never red. The search for the future continues, until every orchard is liberated, until every farmer is safe, until every consumer is aware. This is our collective responsibility. This is our debt to the earth. We must pay it to the sacred land of Mexico. The struggle is ongoing. The hope is alive. And victory is certain. If we decide to act, the green gold will be the pride of Mexico again. The world will enjoy its taste with a clear conscience, without any burden, without any blood. This is our future. This is our only way to survive. The soil of Mexico is calling us. Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to change? The answer is in your next purchase. Choose wisely, because a life depends on it. Someone, somewhere, in the silent orchards of Mexico, a question is floating in the air. Are you standing with me? The choice is yours. The future is yours. Stop, think, act. The story ends here, but the change begins with you, right now, in this moment, for the green gold, for the peace of Mexico, for the soul of the world.